Hi, everybody. Lynn Cox here, clinical hypnotherapist. Pardon me. I'm following up to a post that I put, or a story that I put up talking about the Parkinson's law of mundanity. So, mundane, meaning triviality. So, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because it's, I think, such an important thing for people to consider when they are dissatisfied, let's say in certain areas of life. So Parkinson's law of mundanity, I'm reading a definition here off the internet. So it's known as the law of triviality. It's also called bike shedding. So it's this observation, and I think that anybody who's worked in a group environment or dynamic could probably relate to this. So it's a disproportionate amount of time spent on trivial or inconsequential details rather than getting to the core of the important matter. So this comes into play. Let's take a work example. I'll give you one that's really common because I've been in the work world for long enough, have a lot of friends, have a lot of colleagues, and a lot of clients who've been involved in the professional world. So this idea where something's maybe amiss with a group dynamic. Everybody might know that the core of an issue could be, let's say, having a horrible leader, let's say in the group, or a team member who is lazy and doesn't pull their weight. So there's a problem within the function of the group dynamic. But because as human beings, we tend to fall prey to this Parkinson's law of mundanity, not hone in on what the core issue is, to do all of these kind of like circle around activities to try to see some improvement. So in a work environment, this could come into play where, okay, so there's this core issue. It could be related to one person. Maybe it's not being addressed because maybe they are, the VP of a group, or, there's ineffective leadership to actually deal with certain personality types within a group dynamic. So, the group does other things together, like tries to do team building activities or tries to, kind of do different things to try to make improvements without addressing the core issue. So this Parkinson's law of mundanity, this translates really well into our individual lives, right? Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about family systems. So family systems and family relationships, the same thing applies. Most people are not comfortable addressing a core issue within the work environment, within business, and within relationships and family relationships. It's the idea of upsetting an apple cart. And why is this the case? Well, this is the case because making change, making some kind of a significant structural change, most people, and this is just based on how we have evolved, but also skills that we learn and examples that we have throughout life, change equals fear. It's scary to change. You don't want to disrupt that work situation. You don't want to disrupt the family unit. We don't know how people are going to respond or react when you actually point to what really might be at the foundation of the issue. On a personal note, dealing with clients who are trying to shed weight, but aren't willing to address what's really at the root of their lack of commitment to exercising or their inability to stop eating compulsively or eating certain things compulsively. It's really getting to the foundation and root. And we can do all sorts of things to distract ourselves. We can do all sorts of things to put, little band-aids, to use the example of like changing around the furniture on the deck of the Titanic. It's going to go down. It's going to go down at some point, and it's going to go down anyway. So it's that kind of idea, going surface level distractions and half-ass efforts to really get to the root. Because once you do get to a root, whether it's in a group dynamic, be it at work, in a relationship, or with yourself individually, something big will, when you change that core thing, basically everything else is going to change. It can't stay the same. Once you actually hone in on the core root issue, it's like it's impossible to go back once it's been addressed. And that's why some people avoid going to therapy, because once something is maybe said out loud, heard by another human being, it becomes a little more difficult to keep that cognitive dissonance going on. We all do this. We all do this in different ways. It happens in group dynamics, romantic relationships, whole family dynamics, work situations, and then individual situations. And I'll tell you, most people do have some kind of an inkling of maybe when something's not right, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. They have an inkling of it, but it can be very scary for people to truly address it. And it's too bad, because without addressing the root of an issue, you're likely just going to be having the same Groundhog Day over and over and over again. So it does take a degree of courage. And my mother and I were just talking about this idea again, that people are either pushed by pain, and it's got to be a pain that's deep, like that's significant enough. So pushed by pain. I've actually met a number of people who have kind of pushed down and avoided situations just in work. Like, I'm not even talking your most important core relationships like spouse or children or closest friends. Work relationships and work situations that they neglected for so long and failed to address the core issue, that their bodies started to break down in very strange ways. Digestive issues, lack of sleep, turning to other distractive types of behaviors and substance use. So the Titanic is going to go down regardless. And we do have a tendency to do this because we don't want to, it's not our habit of action to hone in on the core and to make the core root problem and to make change. But, if you have an awareness of that, that's great. If the pain is starting to get too much, you know what? Sometimes that's a good place to get to, because you're either pushed by pain and pain that you just can no longer stand. Usually if it gets to those degrees, though, things will kind of like end up kind of crumbling or exploding. Or you're really pulled by inspiration, right? You're pulled by, you meet, maybe you have a mentor who just has all of these qualities and this way of conducting themselves, if we're talking about the work situation, that you're just so inspired by, and you are drawn and pulled to just to learn new ways of operating, new ways of thinking. So much can be learned and so much can be changed in terms of habitual reactions over responses, group dynamics, family dynamics, relationship dynamics, and how you're addressing issues that you have yourself and what you're hoping to overcome. So I love working with people. I always think it's such a great, typically when people come to see me, they've been pushed by pain and frustration because they've usually tried a number of other methods, years of counseling, different types of like more relationship breakdowns or relationship issues, but it's always a good time. And I just like to share these kinds of thoughts and concepts and theories in hopes that something sparks if you've been thinking about making a change. But just know it's very, very common, in group dynamics, work, family relationships, one-on-one relationships, and then individually putting all your attention on what's not necessary. God, I'll even think of a gym. I go to the gym. I try to do weights about like 3 times a week. And I live right by the rec center here. And I can't even tell you how many times I go to the gym and you see people just kind of walking around, taking pictures of themselves, looking in the mirror. And I'm like, I just want to get in there and I want to like do the thing I'm there to do, get in and get out. It's that kind of idea. It's like I'm not there to take photos of myself and kind of piddle around. Like for me, weights are there's a very specific reason for me doing that. I do enjoy it, but I just like to get in, get at it, and get out. Because I'd much rather be running around on a tennis court, chasing a ball around and having fun. But yeah, we'll tend to kind of not focus on what's important, this Parkinson's law of mundanity, and maybe just if you're having challenges at work or in family relationships, just think about that. Maybe think about it from the perspective of what are all the different ways that we're dancing around here and not calling out the elephant in the room, so to speak, as well as with yourself. If there's something that you've been wanting to do, hoping to do, that's kind of like nagging at you, oh, I need to do that. Okay, when we get to this season or when this happens, then I'll look at that. Just maybe think about it and then think about the ways that you're distracting yourself, again, dancing around, shifting the deck chairs around in hopes that, it'll get better, but kind of knowing deep down that maybe it's this phenomenon that's going on. Okay, I hope everyone's having a great day. Bye for now.